Okay, welcome. Welcome to the tape group, to the World is New tape group, where we use the book of Joel, the blue book. Here it is. The world is new. So today, chapter 6 of the book, and Be a Beholder is the title. And this is, say, the red line or the red thread through all this, through this whole meeting, in very specific, different ways. One of them is Luke 12. The other is, say, the tape of Joel, the introduction to the Infinite Way. And that's a tape from 1955. And so then we're going to listen to that later on. So starting with the meditation, it is Luke 12. And Joel uses it as one of the two, say, must-read Bible references. So the other one is Zacharias, and with a certain number. We'll come to that later. And so in this Luke 12, Luke is interesting, of course. Luke is the healer, you could say, in the 12 disciples. He was a doctor, like he was a doctor, but he was also a healer, of course. And so that makes it even, say, more interesting in a certain sense, because healing is what we're talking about, what we're practicing here. The spiritual healing that is possible because of the recognition of the unreality of what we perceive and the reality that is, say, coming to us as we let go of this unreality, you could say. And so that comes in all kinds of forms. And the interesting part of this is that Joel talks about be a witness, and so be a beholder is literally like start to use your spiritual eye and don't trust your eyes, your five senses, you could say. And don't trust them in the sense of they will not give you the information of what actually is going on. Now this is going to be helpful, of course, in developing a healing consciousness, as Joel is giving that to us, instructing us. Now the talk that we're going to listen to later is very much like an instructive talk. It is an introduction into the Infinite Way. But the way that he talks will not give you any kind of place where you can doubt about what he's sharing. Like it's full on, continuously, in fact, pointing at the place where it actually is happening in you, where you hear this, and where you truly reside, where everything is bringing you, where it's like literally that will be the only place that is really there. The rest will dissolve. It's more like this. So that's what I loved about the talk. And like we said, we're going to listen to that later. But so the instructive part of it is really there. So coming back to Luke, I made a meditation, say prefabricated meditation of it. Made some music for it, because it is like this needs to be accompanied in my, say, ideas when this is happening. It's like, oh, this is beautiful with this. So that's what happened, and that is always just flowing through. So it's like I'm not doing this to prove anything or do anything. It's more like this naturally comes to me to share with you in this way. And that's so amazing always. So I'm actually sharing with you the surprise that it is for me too, how that goes. So Luke 12 is this. Of course, I have to say to you, if you're a mother, happy Mother's Day, because it is Mother's Day today. I visited my mother, yes, I gave her a big hug and said, yeah, everything is all right, I'm doing okay, you are a great mother. You perfected the idea of mothership, absolutely. And look what you did, you got out of the way. So I could be myself. Wow, that's an amazing gift to your child. That's really cool. Truly. So that's really lovely. So that on the side track here. Luke 12 is where we're diving into. So what you will hear is, I'm reading this to you, then Michelle will read it into French, and we, after some break, after some silence, repeat that same section again. So sit back and relax, and let's enjoy the meditation. Do not worry. And he said unto his disciples, Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, neither for the body, what ye shall put on. The life is more than meat, and the body is more than raiment. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which neither have storehouse nor barn, and God feedeth them. How much more are ye better than the fowls? And which of you, with taking thought, can add to his stature 1 cubit? If ye then be not able to do that thing which is least, why take ye thought for the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not, and yet I say unto you that Solomon, in all his glory, was not arrayed as one of these. If then God so clothe the grass, which is today in the field, and tomorrow is cast in the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? And seek not ye what ye shall eat and what ye shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after. And your Father knoweth that ye need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
Jésus dit ensuite à ses disciples, « C'est pourquoi je vous dis, ne vous inquiétez pas pour votre vie, de ce que vous mangerez, ni pour votre corps, de ce que vous serez vêtu. La vie est plus que la nourriture, et le corps plus que le vêtement. Considérez les corbeaux. Ils ne sèment ni ne moissonnent. Ils n'ont ni cellier ni grenier. Et Dieu les nourrit. Combien ne valez-vous pas plus que les corbeaux? Qui de vous, par ses inquiétudes, peut ajouter une coudée à la durée de sa vie? Si donc, vous ne pouvez pas même la moindre chose, pourquoi vous inquiétez-vous? Du reste, considérez comment croissent les lys. Ils ne travaillent ni ne filent. Cependant, je vous dis que Salomon, même dans toute sa gloire, n'a pas été vêtu comme l'un d'eux. Si Dieu revêt ainsi l'herbe qui est aujourd'hui dans les champs et qui demain sera jetée au four, à combien plus forte raison ne vous vêtirait-il pas, gens de peu de foi? Et vous, ne cherchez pas ce que vous mangerez et ce que vous boirez, et ne soyez pas inquiets. Car toutes ces choses, ce sont les païens du monde qui les recherchent. Votre Père sait que vous en avez besoin. Cherchez plutôt le royaume de Dieu et toutes ces choses vous seront données par-dessus. Ne crains point, petit troupeau, car votre Père a trouvé bon de vous donner le royaume.
Wow. That's so great. So to allow this silence, this, say, no worry kind of attitude to really deeply sink in, it is quite something. It is not an easy assignment, you could say, to do that. So Joel gives instruction in this chapter, of course. It's like, well, there is really nothing to worry about. Everything is taken care of. Like really, really, truly, truly, truly. It does not need your help in that sense. It does not need your desires and your wishes. No, it is given. And so that's the only thing that you keep in mind, in fact. No, no, no. Whatever lack you perceive, no, it is not what it appears to be. No, come back to this. So he says it in very different ways. One of them is this. It's like, it's not that you sit back and expect some kind of mysterious God to do the work for you. No, no, no. It needs your total, say, alertness. It needs your vigilance. It needs your... in fact, it needs you completely in order to let this occur. But different than you think. Like it is going to be given because you by yourself cannot do it and don't have to do it. So it's not a matter of failure. No, it is a matter of recognition that it works that way. So that has been, say, a confusion for a long time, of course. Like, well, who does what? And like, okay, I have to step back. I have to, say, give space to God, so to speak. And at the same time, I think I need to do a lot. So it has been a dilemma in your awakening, because it's like you need to fine-tune exactly how this works for you. And what is the voice? I'm listening to the voice, but to what voice am I listening? Am I, say, starting in spirit, as it says in Luke 2? It's like it comes by spirit, by inspiration. It will be given to you. It is not a doing on your part in that sense. No, but you will do things, but they don't come from your ideas. And so that's a great, say, essential, also an essential step in this, in the infinite way. So the world is new, chapter 6. We're going to continue with some expressions of Joel. So one of them was Luke 12. I had a little bit of a typo in the text. You could see that because I said it's Luke 22, but no, it's Luke 12. And so that was the first part that you should keep close to yourself, in fact. And let me see. And the other part that Joel is referencing too is from Zechariah. It's an important passage, and I'll read it to you right here. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts. So it's not by power. It's not by force. You could say it's not forced that you do something. No, it's not by your applying your strength in that sense. It's not by you having an idea and pushing through it in order to make it work. That's not what this says. So it's very specifically, Joel says this comes of, Zechariah says, This comes by spirit, by inspiration, by inspiritedness. It will be given you what to do, where to go, who to talk to, who to meet. Now, since you cannot know what is going to happen, and you have no idea in the bigger scheme of things what's supposed to be happening, to in fact let it be a contribution to every aspect of creation. You don't know what that is. So how would you know anything if you don't even know that? This is what Luke 12 says too. It's like, no, you have no idea what's going on. No, so, and that's okay. You're completely a part of it, and you will be used. You will be told exactly what to do and how to do this. But always by inspiration, not by force, not by power, not by might. That was another word, of course. So that's good to read, and that's good to know. So we're looking at, in fact, at the instruction, like, okay, we love this idea, like, yeah, the lilies of the field are so beautiful. And Solomon didn't have any coats of him were that nice as the lilies of the field. And you remember it probably when you heard that as a child, even like, yeah, you can imagine, because the little lilies of the field are absolutely wonderful. They look so incredibly sweet and beautiful. So this is like how this works. It's like, one thing is to see that, one thing is to discover the beauty of that, and the other thing is to see that whatever you think you can add to this is wasted, is in fact not necessary. It is not necessary to do that. So, but how does that work practically? How can you integrate this into your practice? Because that's what this is all about. Like, this is very much down to earth instruction. Because you got to deal with all kinds of needs that you perceive. Now, what are you going to do with those? You cannot negate them, because you have a need. You think you need something, and you think you have to do something for it in order to achieve it. Now, this is where Joel comes in with the instruction, in fact, in this chapter. And that's really beautiful, how he does that. So one of the things that he in fact shares is be a witness, be a beholder. In fact, step backwards out of the situation. Let the light, let God do the work. Let God show you doing the work, in the sense of it will fall into place, but your part is in it, and you will be instructed what to do. But in fact, it is all happening not by your conscious doing or by your conscious decision. Now you allow the space for something to occur. What you think needs to occur is not what this is about. This is about what occurs and what is, about realization. It has to do with the perfection of your totality, of who you are. It has to do with a perfect moment, a presence, with a communication. It has not to do with any kind of temporal plan that you fit in order to make it work for you later or something like this. And like, no, none of that. No, the whole idea changes. You know, it's like your plan needs to go in order for this to work. So, and up to every little detail. Otherwise, what do? Well, that's something that you were very busy with so far, which is your karma drama, you could say. Your karma drama is working things out that you didn't resolve, and they keep coming back to you as patterns, as habits, as irritations, as confusions, as something that, well, I don't know what to do about it, but it's still there. And it might be in your face, or you might forget about it for a moment, and it will return back to you, seeing that, well, this isn't resolved. I really thought it was gone now, but it isn't. I still need to deal with this in a certain way. Now here's then exactly the way out, you could say, that Joel is offering you. So by your means, by your ways of doing, you didn't resolve this, which is good conclusion, you could say, is like, yeah, it is not going to work when you try to apply your ways of solving a problem or situation. That did not work, and it will never work. Now, you want it to be resolved? Well, if you decide that you want it to be resolved, there is a way to do that, which is really like stepping back, becoming a witness. Let this be healed. Not by your doing, because that didn't do it. It did not work. It failed. Now this is done for you, and you become the witness of that. Your part in it is essential because you in fact allow this to occur by you taking your hands off of it, not by you doing anything. And that is not doing nothing. No, you don't say you step back out of it. That will say help to resolve this. And stepping back out of it can mean that you actually go through all the feelings that are related to it. All the feelings that you were not able to face yet because they were so painful or so intense, but now since they come up again, you're not going to solve it in the way that you tried to do because that didn't work. No, you're actually going to go through it. And no matter what, you see that this was the only way to have it be resolved, by not running away from it, not negating it, not thinking there's nothing going on, no, but by just stepping right into it and allowing it to change and seeing that is exactly the healing place that was offered you. So the situation or the irritation or the conflict doesn't need to return back to you as a lesson, you could say, for yourself. No, it is going to be resolved by you allowing that to change. And that is, of course, huge, because then you don't have to carry around all the luggage and baggage that you thought you need to suffer until something happens. Like, no, this is given to you. Now, this is what Joel is, in fact, giving us in this chapter. So I'm going to read a little bit more in what Joel says here, straight from the book. Okay, so here's a part on page 63. If we are not fulfilling every obligation and living up to our own highest sense of right, then somewhere we are failing in our spiritual understanding. When Jesus said, "Who is my mother and who are my brethren?" it was not that he was negligent son or brother. He was bringing out the truth that his greatest responsibility was to bring about the truth. And his greatest responsibility was to those who were seeking the spiritual path of God, and that nothing must interfere with that. That done, he could go back and be a son, and he would want to be a good one. So this is it's like you're fulfilling every obligation and living up to your highest sense of right. And if we're not doing that, you could say, if we're not doing that, we're failing in our spiritual understanding, which is, it is in fact always coming back to experience. It's always coming back to your experience. So your highest sense of self, you could say, your highest sense of being present would be an experience of communication with your brother. Now, who is my brother and who is my mother? It's like, that is not up to you to describe that. No, it's the one that you meet. And so no matter what situation you are in, is in fact the opportunity to recognize the Christ in your brother, to see that the moment that you meet in this encounter can have a sense of totality. Like you experience literally the communication that is possible just by allowing that to occur and not, say, in fact, putting your stamp on it, having it a certain way, of having it look a certain way. Like, no, this is by openness, by acceptance, by allowing it to become whole, by seeing that whatever here is going on, this is like the one moment it can occur. This is so I'm very much alert, you could say. I'm mentally very much alert in order for this to happen. I give this all my attention. I'm fully present, in fact, to get out of the way and allow this moment to be whole, however that's going to look. And the inevitable, happening then is communication. So it's like that's exactly where the communication comes in, or is happening, in allowing that to become whole, recognizing that we share a common source, recognizing our equality, feeling the unity that is going on in us as a recognition of our oneness in God. So that's exactly the possibility. That's your highest interest, you could say, of the occurrence that you're in, no matter what it is. So that's really something else. It's really beautiful. Oh yeah, so here Joel says this. Ye are witnesses. Be a witness. Be a beholder of God's unfoldment as your experience. See, it's as your experience. Beholder of God's unfoldment as your experience. And as you behold, you will find that you truly have to take no thought. As a matter of fact, there's no way you can take thought. True, you will be thinking, and every minute you will be giving something to think about, but learn to be a beholder. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, no matter who you meet, be a witness, be a beholder of God's unfoldment in you as your experience. So it's in fact this is what Joel tries to tell us. It's like, come back to the idea that, a spiritual experience is not something that happens only during a meditation or something. It's like, no, that is a matter of consciousness, seeing every situation as an inclusive part of it. In fact, you could say like you meditate all the time, or you practice the presence all the time by being vigilant, by not doing anything with the thoughts that you are thinking, not letting them stand in the way for an open connection with your brother. And this is where you practice your healing consciousness, because this is what practitionership is, you could say, or what teaching is, or demonstrating is. Bringing this into demonstration by, the unfoldment of God in you as an experience of yourself. That is so simple and natural. It is totally a part of you. Now the thing that Joel says here too is this, it's like you will take no thought after that. You will take no thought, because basically being in an experience of communication, you've not even a possibility to think. Your mind is so full of light that you will not be able to think. But even that will fall into place just right like that. It's like, no, what the next moment will bring will be perfect. Yeah, if you need to eat, that will happen too. If you need clothes, then that will happen too. Yes, and all of these things, they will come to you. As long as you are focused, you could say, in your highest interest, in using every encounter or every moment that you consciously are aware to come to the unfoldment of God within you. So, really beautiful. All right. So, Be a Beholder is the title of the chapter. Be a beholder. So that's not a passive thing. You'll see that. Here. Vital part in individual unfoldment is take no thought. And taking no thought, we saw that, what that means in Luke 12. Take no thought. Take no consideration. Take no consideration. Take no idea in your mind of a need, of a direction, of of anything that in fact is normal to the human thought. No. Vital part in the individual unfoldment, take no thought. In fact, take no thought serious in that sense. It doesn't mean to become mentally lazy or to sit back and wait for some mysterious God to come and work for you. No, no, no. The opposite. Mental alertness and spiritual expectancy. See, and the spiritual expectancy is really what you experience when you feel the unfoldment going on. It's like you're literally giving birth to the next moment by your expectancy. Be a beholder. Watch as if you were looking over your shoulder to see what God is bringing to pass in your experience. The God that is right where you are. God appears as, God unfolds as your experience. It's like it's all about your experience, obviously. So here's one more thing that I would love to share. God, being infinite, God appears in and as infinite forms and variety. Ye are witnesses, be a witness, be a beholder of God's unfoldment as your experience. So God appears in and as infinite forms and variety. And so you could say there's no exception to the unfoldment of God, because God is a fact. It's the only fact in that sense. It is the only thing that is, with you included, of course, because this is all happening in you. So that makes it kind of easier. But see, you don't see that before you let go, in fact, of your thoughts, of your ideas about how everything should be, has to be, or should have been. So if you let go of the past and the future and become present here, then you start to have a chance to open up your consciousness in order to come to the realm of knowing, instead of using your intellect to work it out. And so one of the essentials here is like be a beholder, is really like relax into that. It's like rest in that. You learn to rest in that. Now, how do you learn to rest in anything? Is in fact to build trust. To build trust that will be taken care of. To build trust that every situation is not for the reason that I think, but there's something else going on. I love to be a witness of that, because I know, there's another way of putting it. It's like, I know when I think about situations what the outcome will be and how it will look, and that is not attractive to me. Like, I know I'm, in that sense, like I'm sick and tired of my own thoughts. I don't want to put my own thoughts in front and make it to something that that has no life to it, you could say. Or maybe I think I have a great idea, but I don't even want that either. So here it is, like the real discovery is taking place in my expectancy. And what am I expecting? God's unfoldment. That's the only thing. I don't know how to describe that in form, or how that should look, or what that will be, but I know that I want that. So in my expectancy, I give birth, you could say, I give birth to every instant that is following, that is in fact a continuation of my eternal, say, rest in God. So I hope I made that clear a little bit. So this is like, everything has to do with your experience. So this is where you cannot say what you cannot let go of. It has only to do with your experience. And this is where you find yourself. This is what you're experiencing in this instant. So that's your starting point. Now allow, say, God to unfold in your experience of yourself. It is not outside, so it's happening all within you. And you take that as a secret, you could say. You take that with you wherever you go. And that unfolds itself in, say, any kind of situation. Some might even be embarrassing to you, as in, say, if you reflect on it with your human thoughts, you might think it is embarrassing to let that occur. Suddenly you burst out in laugh or in feeling so much communication and light that you don't know what to do with yourself. Like it happens when it happens. It looks the way it looks, and it has nothing to do with your ideas about it. Now that's the freedom that you offer to yourself, to allow that to occur. So a really lovely chapter, great chapter. So your world will be completely new when you allow that to occur. And it's just amazing. It's amazing. It is on a continuing basis, pure inspiration. So it's like when you allow this to happen, you want more of it and more of it. You want to see more. You want to say, allow more trust. You say, allow yourself to trust even more and deeper. At the same time, allowing all the changes that occur spontaneously, you could say, you allow those changes to occur too. Just because you start to trust in what is going on and have no considerations. You take no thought for it. You just flow through it and allow those changes to occur. So how can you possibly miss something? How could possibly anything be missed by that? How could you experience pain by allowing that? How could you, all of these things that seem to be normal in your own description of yourself, how could that be if the unfoldment of God is taking place within you? Say, in fact, confirming your perfection in communication. All right, so we're going to listen to Joel, and Joel is really on it. And this is the second part of his lecture. What was it? I think it was Pretoria or so, where he was teaching this. So it is the second hour of his talk, and it's the second half of that hour. So this is a pretty amazing talk. You will see if you haven't heard it yet. All right, so I'm sharing that with you.
In our humanhood, first of all, by knowing this truth, by recognizing it, by acting on it, by never again looking outside ourselves for any form of demonstration, by trusting to the within to appear in the without. The entire secret of all being lies in the recognition of our true identity. If God is the Father and God is the Son, then truly the Son has all that the Father has, for the Son and the Father, these both are God. Or God, rather, is these. God is God the Father, God is God the Son, and in that relationship of oneness, everything is combined. Now, when we come to that understanding, we are called upon to take the next step. To him that hath shall be given, from him that hath not shall be taken even the little that he hath. Sounds like a very cold and cruel statement, but it happens to be a scriptural and spiritual truth, and whether or not we like it, it is the truth, and we demonstrate it. In the moment that you understandingly realize that God constitutes your identity, God the Father, God the Son, all that the Father hath is mine, the kingdom of God is within me, from that moment on, you do not declare, I have not, I need, I require, I desire, I wish, I want. From that point on, you live in the consciousness, all that the Father hath is mine, here, now, and forever. Do appearances always testify to that? No. No, if they did, there would never have been need for a metaphysical teaching on the face of the earth or a spiritual one, because we would be living it. But because of this sense of separation from God, We are not living as if God were the Father and the Son. We are living as if God were in the sky somewhere, and we poor mortals down on earth couldn't even get near it. So we come back through these truth teachings, metaphysical teachings, spiritual teachings, to the realization of our true identity. Then, in the realization of this, we live out from that standpoint, and then find that having given up all desire on this outer plane, having given up all attempts to demonstrate on the outer plane, the final truth is revealed to us. Now it is on this point that metaphysicians who have either lost or delayed their demonstration, it is on this point that most of them lose it or have it delayed for them. I'm speaking, of course, out of 27 years' experience in this work. I've seen demonstrations of harmony made and lost. I've seen them quickly won and delayed. And after these 27 years, I give it as my personal experience that the major stumbling block to harmony is this. We are attempting to demonstrate health, supply, home, companionship, some form of good, and it can't ever be done. It has been done a few times accidentally. It has been done a few times through hypnotic suggestion. It has never been done in the history of the world as a spiritual demonstration, because it can't be done. It would be violating God. If you could demonstrate supply, you would violate God. You'd violate the law of God. If you could demonstrate health, you would be violating every law that God has ever laid down for us. If you could demonstrate home or companionship, then all is lost for all of us, because there is no such thing. There is only one demonstration that can be made in this earth that can result in permanent harmony to us, and that's the demonstration of God's presence, the demonstration of the realization of God. There is no other demonstration that can be made that isn't just a magician's trick. Might happen today and won't happen 99 other times. God is all that we can demonstrate. God and the realization of God and the consciousness of the presence of God is all there is to demonstrate. When we demonstrate that, we have it all, because God constitutes it all. There is no such thing as health. It is God itself that is the health of your countenance. There is no such thing as supply. God is the only supply there is on earth. God is all the supply there is. And there is no other supply. And if you can't demonstrate God, you can't demonstrate supply. And if you can't demonstrate God, you cannot demonstrate the health of your countenance. There is no safety, there is no security, and there is no peace that can be demonstrated. God is the high tower, God is the fortress, therefore God is the only safety. God is the abiding place, therefore God is the only home. You can't demonstrate any other home. God is the only home, God is the abiding place, and if you do not abide in God and let God abide in you, you're as a branch that is cut off and withering. You have to abide in God, not in stone and wood. You have to demonstrate God, not stone and wood. God is meat. I am the meat. I am the wine. I am the water. I am the bread of life. Therefore, you can't demonstrate wine, water, bread, meat. You demonstrate God, and you'll find that God is meat, wine, water, bread. Therein has been the failure of so many that I've met all over this globe. They've left God right out of the picture in order to demonstrate supply or happiness or safety or security or peace of mind. Can't be done. There isn't any. God is the only peace. God is the only mind. God is the only safety, the only security. God is the high tower and the fortress and the abiding place, the hiding place, we're told in Psalms. God is all these things. How then can we pray for hiding places? How can we pray for meat or wine or water when God is the meat, the wine, the water, and we have it scripturally from that one whom we consider our great teacher and our master? And yet, we ignore the statement that we must not seek after what we shall eat or what we shall drink or wherewithal we shall be clothed. No, we run right out to a practitioner and tell him what we need to eat and what we need to drink and how we need to be clothed and how we need rent, violating everything that the Master taught. And the Master was very clear on this point. It is from the Master that this came to me. It is from the Master that for these 27 years this work has been built, even before it was the infinite way. It has been built around this premise that the only thing that can be demonstrated is God. The realization of God, the conscious awareness of God, the consciousness of the presence of God, the hearing of the still small voice, whatever term you wish to use for it. But until we are ready to give up all things, health, happiness, supply, safety, and security, and seek only this realization of God, we cannot come into the abundance of health, harmony, wholeness, completeness, and perfection, because they're not to be found outside of God. Many people think in terms of using God or using truth, and thereby cheat themselves. Because you can't use God and you can't use truth. God can use us. Truth can use us. Wouldn't it be a terrible thing if little us could handle God and swing it around and use it? And for what purpose? Getting something for us separate and apart from God. Oh, no, it can't be done. God can use us. God does use us if we're willing. Truth can use us. And when it does, it fulfills us. It provides all things for us. The moment we think in terms of using God or using truth, you have to think further, why am I using God or truth? To get something or to get somebody. And so we have a something or a somebody separate from God. Do you not see that we're lost? You can't do it. You can't violate God. When you have God, you have it all. It has thus been written, if you had God and the whole world, you would have no more than if you had God alone. Do you see that point? Can you feel the rightness of that point? That if you ever had God, you'd never give another thought in your whole life to anything else? Just think right now if you had God sitting beside you. What would you fear? Neither person, place, nor thing, nor devil. No, no. If you had the assurance of God's presence, you'd give up all thoughts of person, place, thing, or demonstration. You say, I've made my demonstration. I've got the big boy. And you would have. And you would have. You've made your demonstration when you've demonstrated a realization of God. Now, here then, we arrive at that place which you may call the basic premise of the message of the infinite way. It is this: demonstrate God. Demonstrate the realization of God. Demonstrate the consciousness of God's presence. Demonstrate the spiritual nature of God. Demonstrate that mind that was also in Christ Jesus, and you will have made your complete demonstration, and you can forget all else that's in this world, because your sins will be forgiven you, your diseases will be wiped out, your lacks will disappear, and the harmonies and grace of God will flood you. So that our premise is, and really the whole point of this message, demonstrate God. Now, the reason there are so many books and so many recordings is this. It isn't enough to tell you to demonstrate God or to demonstrate the consciousness of God, because that leaves you exactly where you are now, saying, I'd love to, but how? And so these writings and recordings are devoted to that teaching of how. The Infinite Way writings and the Infinite Way recordings are to lead us to the demonstration. They show us how to do it, how to keep our consciousness filled with this realization, or rather with this letter of truth, so that it develops into the realization or spirit of truth. It shows us how to take it in with our eye and how to take it in with our ear. It is a wonderful thing to read truth. It is even more wonderful to hear it, and still more so when we can both read it and hear it, for these seem to be clarifying methods. When we read truth and hear truth, and then make an effort to put into practice that which we have read and heard, then that which follows is an actual consciousness or experience of God's presence. And there is the whole of life's demonstration. I am sure there must be many of you here not only who may have practiced professionally the healing ministry, but certainly there are many of you here who have practiced it in your home or among your friends to some extent. If you haven't discovered this, experiment with it and see if your successes do not multiply many, many times. When you have known the truth consciously, declared it or thought it, stated it, read it, instead of considering that you have given a treatment, realize that you haven't even begun the treatment. You have merely prepared yourself for the treatment. It is the period following your knowing the truth in which the treatment takes place, and you do not give it, God does, and you receive it. The Word of God is quick and sharp and powerful. It says nothing about your word or mine. As a matter of fact, the Master very clearly says that I can of my own self do nothing. So all of these words and thoughts that you are indulging in treatment have no effect whatsoever on the patient or on the condition. The effect is on you, to lift you into a higher atmosphere where fear, concern disappears, and you are then ready for the treatment. You are ready to listen for the still small voice, to receive the inner assurance of God's grace. Then the healing takes place. Then the harmony appears. Then the employment takes place, or the supply, or the overcoming of sin, or the forgiveness of sin. It is not you or I as humans that can forgive sin. It is not you or I who can ever counsel anybody or give advice to anybody on their human problems, but we can be still, and we can let this inner assurance of divine grace come, and then it will bring to you the advice or counsel you need, the guidance and direction. It will bring to you healing and harmony, or whatever form of good may be necessary at the moment. Too long, too many people have depended on their treatments for healing work and found that their healing works never are certain. They never can be certain whether there's going to be a result from them at all, or whether it's going to be good or what's going to happen. Why? Because they know right well that their experience proves to them that their treatments are not too effective. They have not yet realized why. A treatment that we give, a declaration of truth, a statement of truth, orally or silently, is not for the healing work's sake. It is for your sake or mine, to lift us into an altitude of consciousness wherein we can listen for the still small voice and receive an inner assurance that God is on the field, that grace has taken over, divine presence is there. Then we can know that healing has begun, sometimes begun and completed itself. Healings can be instantaneous. They aren't always so. It isn't always good that they be so, for the simple reason that very often, if you merely heal a person, you take away one devil in order to make room for 6 more to come in. If there hasn't been an enrichment of consciousness, if there hasn't been a greater degree of desire for spiritual things, and you leave the patient only with a healthy body, you do not save him from another experience and probably worse. And so it is that it isn't always desirable that a person have an instantaneous healing, because it leaves them free to go back to their old way of living, thinking, being, and with no benefit from the experience of their problem. Whereas actually, every problem should result in a greater degree of understanding on our part. Every problem should lift us into a higher atmosphere of God. So it is, we must never lose the effects of a problem just by having it solved and then forgetting it. Now, this may sound a little more difficult than it is, and I can assure you it isn't as difficult as it sounds, because the main part of it is making a transition which anyone can make right here and now, sitting in this room, if the rightness of it appeals to you. And the transition is this: I am not a human being, I'm not a mortal, I'm not at the mercy of time and tide, I'm not at the mercy of material law. I wasn't created to be that. I and my Father are one. I was created to be the image and likeness of God, the very presence of God, the very manifestation of God's being. Therefore, in my true identity, God constitutes my being, and all that God is, I am, and all that the Father hath is mine. And you take your stand as the spiritual Son of God. Then, from that moment on, you cannot go back to the old ways of seeking a demonstration. Now you have to stand fast in all demonstration is completed in me by virtue of my sonship, and then being patient enough to let it unfold. Now, there is a process that helps us in this, and that is this. When we waken in the morning, if we look out the window and notice daylight, it isn't difficult to realize that all that happened while we were sleeping. Something must have been going on to turn that night into day. And so we can say, aha, this is God's day. God brought this about. God changed the night into day. God brought this light to us, the sun in the sky. This is God's handiwork this day. This day belongs to God, and evidently I belong to God too. And so I see God at work, turning night into day. If you have a garden, it isn't difficult to walk in it for a few moments and notice the development of the flowers from day to day and say, You know, I didn't do that. A force did it. We call it nature, we can call it God. But an invisible presence is going on in this plant, bringing it to fuller and fuller and fuller maturity. That's strange that I don't have to give it a treatment. Strange that I don't have to pray for it. Each day this plant is maturing more and more. The flowers, the fruit. There is something going on within it bringing this about. There is something going on within me. There is something going on within me bringing about my maturity, turning the barrenness of the branch into the abundance of leaves and flowers and fruitage on the tree. I didn't do it. You didn't do it. Something within, an invisible presence and an invisible power functioning in there is bringing us to maturity. And so, God, I can trust you to do the same turning of night into day, turning of the buds into blossoms. I can trust you with the whole of this day, and so I turn this day over to you, and I'm going to do everything that is given me to do, knowing that you have given it to me to do, and that you are helping me in the fulfillment of it. You see, the whole of our experience has to do with an acknowledgement that there is a God. There is a God at hand. There is a God available. There is a God whose will is good. There is a God who does not give and does not withhold, a God that is a continuous state of progressive activity, or a continuous state of activity appearing to us progressively. And therefore, with our reliance in this infinite invisible, we are able to face any hour of the day knowing that God brought us here. God brought you here to this room, and God brought me to this room, and therefore God has something to fulfill between you and me. You may not know what it is, and I certainly don't. But you can be assured of this: it was the hand of God that brought me here. It was the hand of God that brought you here, and not for my purpose and not for yours, for God's purpose. Something good must come out of it. As you awaken in the morning with that realization that God brought the morning and God brought you to the morning, and God has a fulfillment during this day for you, you are placing your life, your soul, your body, your business, your whole day in God's hands, and you are becoming a beholder of God in action. Just as you behold dawn breaking into daylight, just as you behold the stars coming out at night, just as you behold the activity in your garden, so do you become a beholder of your business life, of your family life, in the realization that God it is that is doing it all, and you are an onlooker, a beholder, a beneficiary, an instrument. Now, the practice of this leads to an experience in meditation. Because all of this contemplation which we have been doing leads us to an introspective state of thought in which we become receptive to the still small voice, that which we call God within us. And in one of those moments, we make the actual contact with God. And God then begins to live our lives. From that moment on, everything that has been said here tonight passes out of your thought, because now you no longer think it, you live it. And yet you're really not living it, as Paul says, Christ liveth your life. There is an invisible something doing the whole thing without our taking conscious thought. There too, you see, is a teaching of the masters which we often forget. Who by taking thought can add to a stature 1 cubit? Who by taking thought can make a white hair black? If you cannot do the least of these things by taking thought, why take thought for the greater? And so you rise into not merely above the physical plane of life. You rise above the mental plane of life into the spiritual, where you have no thought-taking for anything. You have only to open your mouth and God puts the words in. You have only to accept whatever obligations, duties, responsibilities come to you, and God fulfills them through you. And there you are in the mystical sense of life. There you are living in conscious union with God. As long as the wheels of the mind are going around planning, plotting, it is not spiritual living, it is mental living. And it is a life of effort, very often a life of trial. The moment through the contemplation of God, beholding God, that we come into this inner stillness, from that moment on, there is no thought-taking in life. There's no plotting, there's no planning. Each day that we awaken, we are given something to do, if not early in the morning, a little later in the morning, noon, afternoon, or evening, but each day brings to us something to be done, but it brings with it the gift of doing it. He that is within you is greater than he that is in the world. He performeth that which is given us to do. He performeth it. We just go through the motions. He performeth it. We have to learn to rest in that realization that God is the central theme, God is fulfilling itself, God is functioning as our very individual experience, and we have no responsibility in this life, none, except to be a beholder and then perform those things that are given us to do in the understanding that we're doing it through grace. Well, many who achieve this degree of spiritual living find that it is not possible to stop there, and their meditations become deeper. Their ability to rest in communion with the Father deepens, and with that comes greater revelations. With every revelation comes a great responsibility. Nobody is ever given a revelation for their own good or for their own benefit. Nobody is ever given the knowledge of God for the solving of their personal problems. No one has ever received the grace of God for the purpose of using it for their own benefit. As a matter of fact, as soon as a depth comes within us, all concern for one's personal self or life disappears, and life begins then on a universal plane. Life then is lived for patients, students, whoever it is that may be drawn to those who have received the vision, so that the world itself be lifted up into higher awareness.
Wow, you see how well this all fits in with the chapter that we're reading. That was also given to me to share this, so it's a really amazing, because Joel is literally repeating what we've shared from the chapter, and really beautiful. So thank you for today. Thank you for your presence here, and you were brought here, as Joel says to us, like you are brought in this situation, and for a very specific reason. Like everything that's occurring here is in your highest interest, and you can completely trust that. Like that's why it is given, and wherever you go from here, that will still be the same. Like you're being brought into all kinds of situations only for that to occur, only to be the beholder, no matter what situation you're in. And that's so amazing. So we come back to this, we repeat this, we practice this, just for say to give that to ourselves, you could say, and to give that to one another as a remembrance of what really is about, what is true about us, about you and about me. So thank you so much for your attention. I'm going to play another song, and I wish you a very nice rest of your day and hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.